Welcome back to the channel. This is the 100 horror films in 31 days, and I did pass the 100 mark on the 30th. I'm going to combine the 29th and the 30th into one video just because I only got in two films for each day. I'm really dragging ass here to finish it up, but I did cross 100, so I did it again. But this time I'm going to be in the low. I probably won't get to 110, honestly. But I did get in four films over 2 days. First up is Premature Burial, which is produced and directed by Roger Corman. Now, the interesting thing about this, I got to get the Blu-ray by the way of this. The interesting thing about this film was that Roger Corman had a issue, and I'm sure it was economics. He didn't go into great detail in the interview, but he felt like Arkoff and Nicholson and AIP had screwed him somehow. And so he went on his own. And the day the day they started production of this movie, Premature Burial, Arkoff and Nicholson show up at the set and wish him well. And he's like, "Well, that's really nice. That's nice, guys." It turns out that they had bought the company that Corman was going to produce this film through. So they're back again as partners, which apparently it worked out. Eventually worked out. So uh, Vincent Price was under contract with AIP, and so he wasn't available for Premature Burial. And therefore, Roger got Ray Milland to play this artist who is petrified of being buried alive. Uh, Basically, he's afraid of being. He's got some kind of catalepsy deal going on, and so he builds all these coffins that he can escape from, and he's obsessed with it. And he marries Hazel Court, who I love. Hazel Court. She's a great actress. I wish she had done more. She did. She was great in the Hammer films, but he's so obsessed with being buried alive that he's a horrible spouse to Hazel Court. It's a good movie, solid film. I give it a 7 out of 10. I definitely need to pick up the. There's a Blu-ray now of this. I've got to pick up the Blu-ray of Premature Burial. It's a good film, 7 out of 10. This is an old Midnight Movies DVD that I dragged out to watch the film. Okay, next up we have got Footprints from 1975. This is a strange deal here. This is directed by Luigi Bazzoni and Mario Finelli, and it stars Florinda Balkan, and she plays this woman that basically wakes up one day and realizes the last 3 days are a blur or just gone. She has these visions of guys landing on the moon, astronauts landing on the moon, indisposed with interspersed with her inability to figure out what the hell happened the last 3 days. She's apparently a language translator, and in her job, and her boss tells her, where have you been? And she's like, I've been here working. Very strange psychological horror movie. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I probably need to rewatch it at some point. I gave it a 6 out of 10. It's a psychological horror about a woman's just, is she just going nuts or what? I mean, and what I like about it, it's open ended. It's subject to interpretation. The ending is oblique. It's not clear cut, which I think is the right way to go with movies like this. Yeah, it's an interesting watch. I would definitely suggest giving it a shot. It's also known as Footprints on the Moon. Next up, I watched 2021's Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City. This one, I really thought had a lot of promise. The Resident Evil series is a mixed bag for me. I don't know that I'm not a big fan of comic bookish action, mainly because, and I think I've talked about this before, whatever the character is, superhero or whatever it is, they usually put in these dangerous situations that you know nothing's going to happen because they're the main character, they're the superhero, and uh, and so it just feels like you're just watching a bunch of special effects without really be, being engrossed in the characters and those type of things. I just in Resident Evil, a number of those movies, Resident Evil, I get the feeling that they're just basically glorified superhero movies with a lot of special effects. Masquerading as a horror movie or science fiction. This one starts off as just like a serious horror movie, and I really enjoyed the first half of it. But the third act, I think, just it reverts back to a lot of CGI, a lot of monsters, faceless, eyeless monsters. That's the thing. You got to have monsters. Ever since Stranger Things and A Quiet Place, all the monsters have no eyes. It's just over and over and over we see that. But Raccoon City, it's essentially about this woman that she goes back to her home city called Raccoon City, and Raccoon City is essentially vacant. The big pharmaceutical company that was the key economic driver uh, has failed for whatever reason, and that the whole town is like just it's a ghost town, and what's left is these virus-like zombies. It was really good. Like I said, but the third act it just disintegrates into what we've seen in the other Resident Evil films, and it's that kind of lost me. I wasn't really a big fan of it. I gave it a 6 out of 10. It's a decent watch, but not something that I'll probably go back to. And then finally, I watched a found footage film, and you guys know how much I love found footage films. Nori the Curse, 2005, directed by Koji Shirashi. And it's about a documentary filmmaker who who is, I guess he's investigating a series of disappearances, coupled with a woman and her 2 kids that just mysteriously disappeared, and he eventually runs into this information about a village from the 1970s that was involved in sorcery and black magic and things like that. It plays just like many other found footage films. It's 90 minutes of interviews, and then you get kind of the third act, which is a wrap up. This film is 2 hours long. This film has no business being 2 hours long. It just doesn't. Most found footage, I think, doesn't. And the third act really was kind of like a homage to Blair Witch, the Blair Witch Project, in my opinion. It really didn't bring anything new to the table. It wasn't scary. It's it's just the shaky camera and being in the dark woods, and seeing these mysterious objects and things. I don't know. I guess I've seen too many horror movies. It just does. This just flew past me like every other found footage. I was completely unsatisfied with the wrap up, and I was pissed off that I had to sit there for 2 hours to get to it. And this should have been 70 minutes, 80 minutes maybe. But this had no business being 2 hours. A lot of people just on the letterbox just think this is the greatest thing they've ever seen, found footage wise. I don't know. Maybe somebody can educate me in the comments section, because I thought this was just another bad found footage film. Found footage is done, man. There's just not. It's the worst. To me, Blair Witch did us all a great, and Paranormal Activity did us the great disservice by being so popular, because now we're just inundated, or we were inundated with these found footage films, the shaky camera, and it's just crap. I just think it's crap. It's just not interesting. It's a gimmick. and it doesn't work. Most of the time, it doesn't work, and the third acts are almost always unsatisfying. Now, I mean, there are good found footage films. I like Troll. The Troll film was good. There's a number of them. I'm not saying the whole genre sucks, but the the films that are actually good and found footage is just it's in one hand. You can count in one hand. Anyway, I didn't like it. I don't like found footage, and it is what it is. I gave this a 4 out of 10. All right, that's going to do it for day 29 and day 30, and I appreciate you watching.